I'm Larry Hull, the Ag Program Manager for the Watershed Ag Council. Along with Brian Lauderet, we're going to kind of team up, and I'm going to have him share the screen to put up our first PowerPoint. But while he's doing that, I just thought that we thought this would be a good opportunity for some of the participants and others out there in the audience to kind of ask us questions in a round table kind of format. We're going to go through a small slide set and have a few other people discuss a few items, but we just want to talk about the current leadership changes, the financial status for our BMP implementation, how that gets prioritized for the ag BMPs. And we're going to touch on a few things that have happened in the last year to year and a half that really have affected some of the programs that we've normally been doing for the last 25 to 30 years. But we just thought this would be a good time to just, have some people weigh into some of their questions. We're going to tie in some letters that were sent out to the participants. What the first letter we had sent out was about a year ago, kind of detailing where we were with our situation. And then again on our website in October, we had a follow-up letter with some e-blasts that also went out. But we just thought we'd talk a little bit about those, today and kind of refresh people of where we are and where we're going. So, and as Dale said, you'll have opportunities to ask questions between Brian and myself. We'll look in the chat box when the other person is not is speaking, and so we can grab some of those questions and hopefully answer your questions right when we're doing our presentation, and then there will be time at the end as well. So first off, we always want to start with our Wac mission to promote the economic viability of ag and forestry, the protection of water quality, and the conservation of working landscapes through strong local leadership and sustainable public-private partnerships. From the start of WAC nearly 30 years ago, the economic viability of a farm was a focus. There was words in our first Brown Book and things like that where it said do no harm to a farm when we're trying to put water quality best management practices on the farm. And we certainly know that through the years when we put best management practices on a farm, it quite often helps the economic viability of the farm, and it helps the farm prosper where they were struggling in the past. So we want to stick with those principles. Now the programs that we have, agriculture, obviously we have west and east of Hudson. We're going to primarily be focusing on the west of Hudson agriculture today, but obviously we have forestry, which they have 120,000 acres that they have management throughout the years with. Conservation easements, there's 31,867 eased acres. Economic viability has a strong push in the region, and you're going to hear from the director in a few minutes about that. And then again, like I said, east of Hudson has quite a network, mostly down in Westchester County, but on up into touching Connecticut, so Putnam County, Dutchess County, and the like. So some current leadership changes that we have. We did have Ryan Natz as an interim director, executive director for a year, but he was just hired full-time this past November to December and was hired as the full-time executive director. So he's full-time, located in the Hamden office, as was the director before him. And we have a new finance director. Her name is Carol Bishop. She will be starting February 21st. So as some of you may have known, the previous finance director had left his office in February of last year. And so now we have, just a year later, a new finance director hired. The easement program director, since that was Ryan Natz's position prior to becoming the executive director, that position has been advertised and is out in the works right now. Our WAC Council Chair is Bud Gladstone, and he's been with WAC for quite a few years. He's been the Ag Program Committee Chair for several years, but as of last November, December, he became the Council Chair as well. So we certainly welcome Bud. He got called out on an emergency this morning. We were going to have him do a little bit more on himself so other people can get to know him a little bit more if you haven't already. But he's pretty well known through a lot of different hats that he wears. At this point, I would like to introduce Kristen Morley, the EV director. She's got some program initiatives that you probably saw quickly on that rotating slideshow prior to our beginning of our talk here. But I'm going to turn it over to Kristen so she can highlight some of her programs that are happening right now for some good positive steps going forward. So Kristen.
Thanks, Larry. I'm Kristen Morley. I feel like I know everyone on this call, but I oversee our EV program, and feel free to message me at any time with any questions. I'll be brief. I just wanted to introduce you all to some new programming. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Perfect. So we're happy to now launch and relaunch some of our programs in regards to some new support through this EV program, business planning. We've had this for about 1.5 to 2 years now as an option, but due to austerity measures, we weren't really promoting this. But we're happy to say that this business planning reimbursement program is back up and running, and you can apply for it at any time, right online, all of the requirements and any type of vendor list to reach out to, any type of all of our project summaries and program project details, everything's listed online. So we're very excited about that. As you saw in our rotating slide in the very beginning, we also have a grants program open right now, the micro grants program. The deadline is January 31st. And this is available for training, marketing, event mileage, and staffing reimbursement. Again, everything can be done right online. All of the information is listed here. And we're happy that we are able to get a grants round open again. And then third, what I really wanted to highlight for you all today is we now have a Farms and Forests transition reimbursement program that we've been working on for many years, and we're very excited that it has launched. And again, you can apply right online, but this is, a catalyst to so much of what we do and what we are hoping will help farming remain and going through many items and projects that farms, need this support for. And so we're really excited that it's up and running and that people can apply at any time. The Farm Force reimbursement transition is up to $5,000, as are the micro grants. The business planning is up to $2,000, and it all can be done right from the WAC website. So that's really all I had today, but we're hoping that these programs and these initiatives will help our ag participant base, our WAC participant base in a new way. And we are hopeful that people will start applying for all of this. And of course, please contact me with any questions that you might have.
Thanks, Kristen.
Thank you.
You have any questions, as she stated, we certainly try to get a hold of us. The numbers are on the website, and the email address is also there as well.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right, so continuing with our workshop here, panel discussion, just going back to the 4 tenets of success, that it's voluntary, locally led, fully funded, and collaborations are extremely important in our business. Without the participants and the landowners that are out there, the voluntary participation that started 28 to 30 years ago is the primary focus of our programs. We have the local staff and the council. Many of the council are farmers currently, or past farmers, or community members. And the fully funded programs were, we'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes, how that has been a staple of our business as well. The partner collaborations, we can't do it without everybody on the same team. We have quite a working group here between the Delaware Soil and Water group and the Cornell Cooperative Extension of Delaware County, the two USDA of the NRCS and the FSA programs that all join together. Most of those are located, that we work with, are located right in the Walton office, but we also share different things in Hamden with the rest of the Cooperative Extension group over there. So this has been a great collaboration and much needed in our community. So what we wanted to do now is kind of give you the financial status for the BMP implementations. A lot of talk in the last couple of years, and I'm not always sure that everybody out there as the participants gets the full understanding of what happened and where we are and why we're here as far as the financial status. Just kind of go back a year ago under previous administration leadership, WAC did not effectively or efficiently follow the contractually required process to receive our payments from our main funder, which is the New York City DEP. As a result, WAC had fallen behind with multiple contract payment submissions and was in a critical cash flow position. Just explain that we need to every quarter ask for the funding that's in our budget and that's also in our overall contract. And that was not done correctly. And I also want to make sure there's a very important to note that throughout this issues that happened, there was no funds missing. There was nothing that happened improper with the funds for any individuals. Nothing was ever found to be out of order that way. It was just that things were not done properly in a financial way to get our payments and to get the right process followed. So I just want to make sure people are understanding that there was no misuse of the funds any other way. It just wasn't, we weren't getting the contract required process done. And so due to the cash flow deficiencies, WAC was very limited in the program implementation for all of our best management practices, especially the structural practices, the covered barnyards, the spring developments and everything else. So WAC really operated on an austerity budget for the remainder of the calendar year in 2021, as we were taking steps to correct the financial accounting mistakes that were made in previous years. It wasn't just 1 year, it was a couple of years compounded by changing from one contract to the next contract. So a lot of paperwork and documents had to be sorted out. Now this obviously had a major effect on the participants and staff, as BMP projects that were scheduled and or had been out to bid or were in the bidding process were held back or delayed. So obviously we understand that this creates a lot of frustration on both sides, staff as well as the participants that were expecting water quality projects and things that were scheduled for their farm. And we know that farmers, if there's a covered barnyard or there's something else coming on their farm, that they're planning for that, and then you stop that for a year or two, it really is disruptive. And we understand that, and we're working very hard to get back into the programs that we had been scheduled before. So again, there was a third-party audit that was conducted of WAC's internal financial processes and all the procedures. This was required and directed by the New York City DEP. And then at the same time, WAC had developed its own corrective action plan. We were looking internally to say, hey, how can we resolve some of our immediate deficiencies and try to chart out a proactive course for improvement for the organizational operations. And that includes greater accountability and oversight for the use of all the restricted public funds that we were receiving. So between these, collectively, these steps help determine what actions needed to go forward and the time period when we could start resuming the routine implementation of all of WAC's programs. But one thing that this did happen while we were going through this whole time frame this past year, these two actions involved a lot of staff time. We needed to provide thousands and thousands of pages of documents for the auditors to review and all the follow-up questions thereafter, because we were actually dealing with, people in the audit process and the various position, various departments in the DEP that really didn't know a lot about our business. So there was education needed on that side to bring people up to speed on just how we have been working over the years, and providing them with all the proper documents to warrant where the funds went, where did they go in years past, and so that they could sort them out and get a lot of financial information all the way down the line to every receipt that we had in the past years. Several years had to be copied and sent. So I just want to give you some kind of depth and breadth of what the staff was doing over this past year to hopefully get the corrective actions in the right way, moving in the right direction. So even despite all of the time that we put in and all the stuff that we had to do for the audits, there are a lot of noteworthy improvements, and for timely submittals and remittance of payments, as well as an overall audit conclusion that council was in compliance with the contractual requirements, except for the questions, cost, and findings, which were, what happened between one contract or another contract within our funding that we were getting from DEP. So several deficiencies and material discoveries noted therein. There was reasonable justification, and the city made recommendations for greater oversight of the public funds that we receive. So working under that premise, but in collective recognition of WAC's critical role in the region and water supply, the next steps included entering into a monitoring agreement with the New York City Department of Investigations, DOI. So we had to enter into a monitoring agreement, and this was completed this past quarter. It started basically back in August, where after the audit was concluded, we went through several months working with the DOI to develop a monitoring agreement so that could be signed, so we could enter into that and know what we were getting into. But with the whole justification that we're trying to make sure that we have better oversight of public funds and we have a better process and procedure going forward. So when people hear DOI, they typically think of anti-corruption efforts through systemic investigations. That is, of course, what DOI is responsible for, but it also provides comprehensive recommendations aimed to improve operations, transparency, and accountability. So that is what we're actually under, that section of the DOI. So in that regard, WAC intends to move forward to improve the processes, give the ratepayers the assurances that they deserve, and to fully restore the programs our staff, partners, and participants have worked so hard to create and maintain. So we expect to have improved processes and procedures developed throughout the year, this next year. If it takes longer for some of the guidelines and things to be looked at, that will be taken into consideration. But we really want to get back to the core mission, and that's a high priority for us, so that we can, learn from the mistakes that were made in past processes that were done, and so that we can move forward and be more efficient and obviously have better transparency and accountability for everyone involved. So currently the contract funds for expense and capital are being properly identified so that we have a clear total for the BMP implementation through June 30th, through June 30th, 2022. Our fiscal year starts July 1st and runs through the next June 30th. So we are actually in FY22 is what we call it, and that started in July 1st of 2021. We had put together a budget for that year, and we are working through that to make sure that we can clearly identify between the expense side of our contract and our capital side. Expense usually goes for our mostly for salaries, Capital, you can think of that mostly goes for implementation, structural implementation, or anything to do with that, like some engineering and technical designs and so forth will go on the capital side. The problem that we had in the past was using some funds from one contract to fund the other, and that's what they're trying to decipher and sift out and sift through with all the documents that have been provided. So once we have a clear total that's remaining for that budget year, which will go through the end of June of this year, we'll have this will let us know what funds will be available so that we can start moving forward with some of the projects that we have already designed and ready to go. And we'll know how much funds are available between now and the end of June. Then WAP is putting our workload budget together with a target date at the end of March for the fiscal year that starts July 1st of 2022. That will be called FY23, just for fiscal year 23. This is part of our normal contract deadlines. So it's just letting you know that we're putting together what we think is going to be a very robust budget that we're going to be requesting so that we can generate the funds that we need to start putting more of these structural, larger BMPs on the ground towards the end of this year and certainly rolling into the actual calendar year 2023. So the WAP currently has over $8 million in best management practices projects that are designed and ready for implementation. And the funding amount that's tied to the cash flow will determine, and cash flow will determine when we can put the larger projects out. Like I just mentioned, if we can request and get the funding, a larger amount of funding coming this July of 2022, that'll set us up to start putting out some of those projects towards the end of May and into June, because it takes about a month to go through a large project where you have a site showing, you have a 2-week period where you're asked for the bids to come back from the contractors that were at the bidding site. And that process all takes about a month to get going. So we could start prior to July 1 with that process so that when we receive the funds for the next, budget year, fiscal year, if you will, on July 1st, we'll have the funds ready to go so we can start putting a lot of those projects that you see that we mentioned out there. So that is our current financial status and the BMP implementation. I'm going to kind of turn it over now to Brian Latourette, our operations coordinator, so he can kind of go into the accomplishments that we have been working under within the AG program. And then we can certainly take questions throughout the rest of the presentation. And certainly at the end, we can take any questions you have. So Brian, I'll turn that over to you.
Okay, good morning and thank you for joining us. Just real quick, we wanted to kind of show the accomplishments of what the Watershed Ag program has been able to achieve with our participant pool for the last pretty close to 30 years. We have invested and implemented over $62 million worth of structural best management practices in the region. And like I said, that is with the participants' active involvement in their whole farm planning process. Currently, we have 264 active whole farm plans in the west of Hudson Catskill system. And this covers, these active whole farm plans cover over 140,000 acres of active working landscape. To date, we've held well over 600 educational events and opportunities, and we're averaging approximately 30 of those each year. Recently, approximately 3 to 4 years ago, we initiated an aggressive cover crop program, and we're aiming for 1,500 acres annually and make that available to the participants within a program. And then also the program continues to partner with any and all local agencies, which make opportunities available for our participant pool. Lost my advancement on my computer screen. So each year we update our agricultural conservation footprint. We keep track of all the acreage that is in each whole farm plan as well as each nutrient management plan. And this actually is able to allow us to control and plan and manage nutrients throughout this watershed. And totaling this past year in the nutrient management field, we had over 1,100,000 kilograms of nitrogen that are in plans, as well as approximately 350,000 kilograms of phosphorus that are controlled by our plans. One notable program area that's not mentioned here is the PFM program, Precision Feed Management Program, that's been in operation in our contracts for 5-6 years now. And this also adds 182,000 pounds of phosphorus per year that is controlled through those plans, as well as an additional 1.1 million pounds of nitrogen per year. The PFM program looks at the diet and forage intake of the front end of the animal, where nutrient management primarily takes care of the back end of the animal. We have 40%, just an interesting fact, 40% of our participating small farms have actually grown and are eligible for the Ag and Markets definition of a large farm, 10,000 gross. And perspective, looking at our pool of available participants coming into the program, we currently have 64 eligible operations who qualify to be participants who are in the waiting wings to be a participant of our Watershed Ag program. And this equates to 50 animal units. This would be, these operations have over 15 animal units per farm, and this equates to 24 of those facilities. The total animal units out there in the wings is approximately 1,100 total animal units. Larry mentioned earlier that we have a design pool of projects waiting to be implemented. For these projects, we have developed an SOP, and this would actually take these projects and prioritize those based on funding availability and cash on hand. And these would be released from the box or from the in design process and then put into implementation. Larry actually mentioned our request for funding in the next fiscal year. Designs are prioritized by the date that they were designed, and the participant approved those designs. So there is a process of how those projects will come out and be implemented in the field. We also look at the pollutant category and farm ranking to determine the release of these projects. If the projects are in the same pollutant category, the farm ranking score will break that tie. A real quick summary of the last year, 2021. Larry mentioned that we're have been delayed on our structural BMP implementation, but the management BMPs and other areas of the Watershed Ag program have excelled. We've been full force in our participant contacts, our QMAs, which is the Quality Management Assistance Programs, and educational events that have been offered and attended. As I mentioned, we average about 30 educational events. This past year, we offered 47 educational events and sessions, both in person and virtual. All nutrient management plans are current. Nutrient management credit was funded and offered to all eligible participants, and reimbursement requests have been honored throughout the year. PFM is now available to eligible beef farms, and we have 58 participating farms in our precision feed management program. Agronomic BMPs, including cover crops and liming, have commenced throughout 2021, and we covered approximately 1,500 acres in those two categories of agronomics. Whole farm plan revisions and annual status reviews are current. All have been done in the annual status review area. And there's an estimated 225 participant visits for BMP design package consultation, reviews and approvals that have been completed. And the Watershed investigation and repair crew have made over 60 investigations and BMP repairs. So although we've been delayed on our actual structural BMP implementation, the Watershed Ag program has really been full force and out there in every other area that we could possibly engage in. So this really completes our presentation. So we're going to open the floor up for this roundtable discussion for questions. And I think we have a few in the chat box. So we'll get organized here and answer some questions.
Thanks, Brian. This is really for this roundtable, again, panel discussion is for any of the participants out that are in the audience that want to ask questions. We really wanted to give you an update as best we could on where we are in a, with the positioning of not only WAC, but the Watershed Ag program as well, as far as whatever the BMPs are looking at. So it's really open. If anybody wants to either raise your hand, we can ask direct questions. I can throw in one that I've heard from several people is, what should participants be doing if they have BMP projects in the design process, or they have projects that have already been designed? And so the suggestion is for us is, if you have an uncompleted design and you're working with a technician, continue to work with your technician and whole farm planner to get them 100% fully signed designs. Because like Brian just mentioned, we have an SOP as far as, what projects are going to go out first when the funding cash flow gets better. And obviously we can't put anything out to bid if it doesn't have all the signatures and it's not 100% ready to go. So if there's designs out there and there's been procrastination on whoever's part it is, the big push is to make sure we get all the designs done and in the box, ready to go, so that we can properly prioritize which ones are going to go out first when the funding does become available. Also, if you have a completed design that it's been done for half a year or more, that's been what we call in the box and ready to go, just dust that off, review it, make sure that all aspects of that BMP are still valuable and needed. Perhaps you changed your farm operation, or you got more animals or something like that. Please look at your design, make sure that it's ready to go, so that when we do get the funding, we don't want to have to wait to see if there's got to be a revision either on the planning side or the technical side. So just look at your plans, make sure they're all ready to go. And then if you have any updates or changes, please contact the technician and whole farm planner as soon as you can to make sure we have the best project ready to go. Any questions on that one? I think along with that, the other follow-up question to that is, how will participants know when their BMP projects are going to be implemented? Once we get the workload and the annual workload, funded and approved, the planner will normally give you those participants the notification that, hey, your plan has been put into the workload for this year, or give you some kind of a timeline. But then the actual implementation of that BMP, as we get closer to the prioritization time where we have funding for your particular BMP, you'll be contacted by your procurement officer and the technical staff, as they will need to start setting up the bidding schedule for your individual BMPs. And if it's a single purchase or 3 written quote threshold, the participants are usually asked to help select the contractors that those bid documents will be sent to. So those are some things that you'll be seeing coming up. We're really looking for, if once we get the information that we are looking for over the next month, as far as how much money is remaining in our budget that started last July, we're looking at hopefully starting putting out some bid packages in March. Obviously weather permitting and contractor availability, we'll start putting things out as soon as we get that cash flow. And then once we get our budget for the fiscal year that starts in July, we'll certainly know then, what of the larger projects we can start putting out in that end of May to June area that I talked about earlier. So that's where we are, and that's where we're trying to push forward with. So again, if there's any questions from the floor, clarification of anything we went over, certainly happy to answer any of those questions. Otherwise, Dale, I think we're wrapping up this session. Certainly opportunity for anybody else to weigh in. Again, it's a little tougher with the virtual. We understand.
That's right.
When you have a group in front of you, it's easier to interact, and nobody wants to be the first one to ask a question on the virtual.
Well, and we also know that all of you know our phone numbers. And so certainly don't be hesitant to call any of us, any of your whole farm planners. Larry, Brian are always happy to talk with you and help you understand the situation or listen to things that are concerning to you or challenges that you're having. And so, again, we're always glad to talk with folks. And so thanks for being with us. Thank you to Larry and Brian and team for updating us on situations. And it looks like there's good things coming our way in the near future. So thanks for joining us, and have a great day.